everyone. Thank you so much for joining our Downtown San Francisco Vibrancy Loan Program information session. I'm actually going to hand it over to Kelly and she's going to kick us off.
Yeah, can we get the next slide? Thank you. Morning, everyone. So first, just a couple of housekeeping things before we dive into the content for today. Please, if you have questions, try to put those in the Q&A section. We can definitely use chat to add feedback, whatever. But if you have a specific question for the panelists, definitely put that in our Q&A. And then for really detailed questions, like for specific, individual circumstances, we might need to follow up with you later just to keep it kind of general and applicable to everyone. And then before we get started, we just kind of want to get a sense of, everyone who's in the room. So I'm gonna launch a poll just to see what stage of business are you in? Where are you in your process and thinking about things? So launching that poll now, going to give you a few minutes to just let us know where you're at in terms of your business, and that way we can have a good idea of what content will be helpful here. Okay, great. And Jossiel, could you just end? Okay, there we go. All right, thanks everyone for your responses. I'm gonna close out the poll so we can move forward. It looks like we have mostly folks who have an existing business and looking for a new location. A bunch of folks with a business plan looking to get other pieces together. And quite a few have an established business for over a year. So that's great to hear. I'm going to end the poll and check out the results. Great. Thanks so much for participating with us. Really excited to jump in here.
Great. So we'll just go ahead and introduce ourselves so that you know who we are. I'm Karla DeLeon from Main Street Launch. I'm our Chief Credit Officer, so I oversee our lending programs and oversee our lending team. And I'll tell you a little bit about Main Street Launch in a bit, but I'll let Jossiel introduce himself.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. So my name is Jossiel Cruseta. I'm the Small Business Program Administrator. And so my job within OEWD is to work with entrepreneurs on different grant and loan programs, as well as these kind of partnerships with technical providers and lenders that can help your business start and grow in San Francisco. So thank you all again for being here. And yeah, and just a little bit about OEWD. So our mission is to really advance the equitable and shared prosperity for San Franciscan. And so my role and the role of our division and our department is to ensure that we are providing resources, a pathway for, again, for entrepreneurs like yours to get started and really grow here. Our job is to see a vibrant San Francisco, to see vibrant commercial corridors. And so on our end, everything that we do, whether it's neighborhood based or just citywide or downtown, really for us is to ensure that the appropriate resources and the partnerships are there for business owners across San Francisco. But like I said, we work with nonprofit partners. We have different grant and loan programs. So we're super, super excited to partner with Main Street Launch and with other banks as well that you'll hear from Karla on this new initiative, the Downtown Vibrancy Loan Fund, because really this job and the effort that we've been doing is to ensure that San Francisco becomes more of a hub for mom and pop businesses to really have the resources and thrive and stand the test of time. So with that, I would like to pass it over to Karla.
Great, thanks. And so I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about Main Street Launch. So Main Street Launch, we're a nonprofit, what's called a community development financial institution. Our mission is to empower entrepreneurs and create economic opportunity. And the primary way that we do that is by providing access to capital. And so for this program specifically, we partnered with JPMorganChase, US Bank, and the City of San Francisco to support downtown San Francisco businesses through this loan program that has also a grant component. And so us as a nonprofit, we've been around since 1979, and we've actually partnered with the City of San Francisco for over a decade now to manage a few loan programs. And so this is one of them, and I'm excited to tell you all about it. And I think the key to this program is really thinking about the spirit of the program and what it's trying to accomplish, which is to bring vibrancy to downtown San Francisco and fill vacancies in the downtown San Francisco area. So with that said, I'm going to go into some of the loan details so that we can, so I can give you a little bit of an overview of the loan program. And Jossiel, if there's things you want to add, please feel free to jump in at any time. All right, so this program is, again, thinking of sort of the spirit of the program, it's to create vibrancy downtown and fill vacancies. And so with that, it is a combo of a loan and a grant, right? And so from the loan portion, the loan is up to $100,000. It's a 5-year repayment term and a fixed interest rate of 4%. So the thing I want to highlight about the loan amount and the term is the loan amount is, it's really important to think about how much capital you're going to need to be successful. And we'll talk about the eligible use of funds in a little bit, but thinking about your total project cost in terms of everything that you're going to need to open doors, opening inventory, and then operating capital as well. So we can definitely refer you to resources, and we as a team will also help you think through your total project cost. In terms of the repayment terms, right? The maximum repayment term for this loan is 5 years. And the thing I want to highlight about this is the lease term, right? It's a requirement that the lease term match the term of the loan. So what that means is, if you're opening a new business and you're not sure really if you're going to be operating, and let's say you only sign a 6-month or a 1-year lease, we can't make a loan. We can't give you a 5-year loan if you only have one year at that location, right? You can have multiple options to renew, but you need to be able to operate in the space for the term of the loan, because at the end of the day, we don't want you to, be stuck with a loan that you can't repay. That's not good for anyone. And 5-year repayment terms, 4% fixed interest rate. And there's no prepayment penalty. So if things are going well, you can always pay back faster. There's no equity injection. So oftentimes people think of this as a down payment, right? Or your contribution. There is no equity injection requirement for this program. We like to think of the grant actually as the equity injection for this. And then in terms of collateral. So the collateral that's required for this loan program is a blanket lien on all business assets. What that means is in the event that you're not able to repay the loan, or in the event of a default, we have access to, furniture, fixtures, and equipment for in order to help pay down the balance of that loan. And we also require a personal guarantee from any owner with 20% or more ownership. So keep that in mind, especially for new businesses as you're developing your business structure. And then in terms of the timeline, people always ask this, so I added the detail here, but generally once we have a full complete application, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to process that. And then as a bonus, this program does have a grant component from the city, which is a $25,000 grant.
Yeah, so just a little bit about that in terms of the grant component. So if you're a business owner that may have received the Storefront Opportunity Grant last year, you wouldn't be eligible for the grant component of this program. Really, for us, is to fill vacancies and to spur economic development in downtown. So just I wanted that little asterisk means it's just for anybody that has got an SOG or Storefront Opportunity Grant program, they would not be eligible for the grant.
Thank you. All right, so some eligible uses of funds, right? You can use the loan basically for any startup expense or anything that is an eligible business expense. So that can be things like purchasing furniture and fixtures, right? So let's say you're moving into a new space and you need to purchase furniture, um, equipment, inventory, supplies. Um, the other big one is tenant improvements. So if you need to do any type of build out, whether that be kind of small cosmetic things or maybe larger things that require permits, we can finance that. Working capital, this is the cash reserves that you need to get started, right? Or I'm sorry, to operate the business. So things like covering your rent, covering payroll, covering utilities, all of those are eligible uses of what's called working capital. And then any other startup expenses that you might need. So working capital and operating capital are kind of the same thing. It's listed there twice, just really for clarity. Um, so those are the uses for this loan. So pretty straightforward. Basically, if it's a business expense, you can pretty much use this loan for it and the grant as well. Now let's dive into a little bit of the eligibility. So businesses, um, number one, I guess the first thing to say, and I think it's listed here, is you have to be a for-profit business, right? So unfortunately, nonprofits are not eligible for this at this time. You have to be a for-profit business, but the business has to be moving or expanding into a ground floor public-facing vacancy within the designated downtown area. And I have a slide coming up on the designated area, but really it's about businesses that are, filling vacancies on the ground floor that are going to help create that vibrancy, right? Always thinking about the spirit of the program. So newer expanding for-profit businesses. And we say newer expanding because you can either be a brand new venture, right? Or if you have another location in another part of the city, maybe you want to open a new location in this downtown area. So that's what that would mean by expanding. You do have to have a valid San Francisco business license and any other permits or licenses that are needed to legally operate your business, right? So if you want to open a hair salon, you do need to have a cosmetology license, that type of thing. You have to have a business plan and financial projections, right? This is a startup business, so we need to see a really solid plan, and we want to see how you're going to be able to repay the loan. In terms of FICO, it is a business loan, but we do look at the owner's personal credit as sort of a proxy to look at the ability to repay. So we don't have a score minimum, but we do want to look at the content of the credit report to see that there's no past due accounts or open collections. I always tell people to check out your free annual credit report at annualcreditreport.com, and you can see if you have any past due accounts or open collections, and you can work on fixing those before you apply. You do have to demonstrate the ability to repay the loan, right? So that's either through, maybe you have, like I said, another location that is profitable and can repay a loan, or through projections that show how your business is going to be able to repay this loan with the new location. You can't have any personal or business tax liens, right? Again, this is sort of going back to the point about sort of no past due accounts or open collections. It's very similar to that. If you have a tax lien and you owe some taxes to the city or the county or the state, we want to get those resolved before you apply. So the other thing is that you can't have a bankruptcy within the last 3 years, and you do need to be current on all your accounts. So personal credit is important, right? Like I said, it's a proxy for determining how the business is going to be able to repay its debts as well. In terms of secondary sources of income, you'll see this listed as a requirement. Basically, what we want to see is that you're able to cover your household expenses. So whether that's through, if you have another business or another location where you've been, paying yourself a salary and you cover your household expenses through that, that's fine. Maybe you have a spouse that has another source of income, or maybe you have some savings, right, that you can live on for 6 months to a year, which would be sufficient. You must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. I see there was a question in the chat asking about whether or not ITIN holders can apply. We do require at least one one guarantor, so one owner of the business be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. And then startups have to have direct industry experience. So, if you want to open a restaurant, but you've never worked in a kitchen, that's going to be really tough. We want to see that you've been able that you know how to operate the business and that you know what it takes to really be successful. All right, so let's talk a little bit about eligible geography. Jossiel, do you want to cover this?
Yeah, just Mohammed said that my sound is not clear. Are you able to hear me okay? Okay. I just wanted to make sure because yeah, one of the participants said so. So basically this is a map that we developed based on previous data account about what's considered downtown. And so this geography is pretty much set in stone for this program. I understand there's always going to be a lot of questions about, are there any exceptions to be made? Are there, I'm only a block away, but unfortunately for the purposes of this program, you do have to be within the green zone in order to be eligible for the grant. You have to be filling a vacancy in this, again, green zone. And so part of it is you can see that support properties are not part of this, as well along the Embarcadero, along Embarcadero. And so we want to make sure that that you all know that basically the map is pretty much fixed at this time. And then, like I said, this decision until the map geography was made based on different maps that we've seen in the past as to what is typically considered the downtown core area for San Francisco.
Great. And just so you guys know, we do have an interactive map where you can enter your address to double check. It's on the website, but I will also include it in, or can I include it in the chat? Actually, I don't think I can. We'll have to send it after the fact. So you can type in your address and see if you're in an eligible area. Okay, in terms of the grant program, so some of the common questions that we get is, does the grant amount vary? And the answer is no. So if you're approved for a grant, it's a $25,000 grant, regardless of the amount of the loan that you're approved for. And then the grant will be dispersed after the loan is approved and funded. So those would hopefully get dispersed concurrently. And then in terms of eligible uses of the grant, it's just like the loan, it's any business expense, right? This is really to support your business, to help you kind of hopefully start off on a better footing. And the other thing that I want to note is that grants in general, grants are taxable income. So it is something to keep in mind. You will have to pay taxes on this, and it will be included as income on your profit and loss statement. All right, so a little bit about what the process looks like. So we start all of our processes with a conversation. So if you were interested in starting, you would fill out one of the forms on our website, and one of our relationship managers will give you a call to discuss your project and sort of where you are in the process to see if it's a good one, a good fit, and number two, you're ready to get started. And so once you have that call, what they'll do is they'll send an application, and that's where the process gets started in terms of collecting all of the documents that you'll need. So the things that I always tell people to have ready that will make the process go a little bit faster is a business plan. And if you don't have one together, we have resources to direct you to help you put that together. A business license. So if you don't have the physical certificate, proof that you already registered the business is helpful, again, to speed along the process. And then tax returns and financials. So having all those things in order is helpful. Bank statements. So one of the things, especially for new businesses, many new businesses haven't opened a business bank account yet, but all businesses, if you're receiving a business loan, you need a business bank account for that loan to be deposited into the business bank account. And we'll look at the statement. So if you, like I said, if you've been operating, right, in another location throughout the city, we'll look at the financials of that business and the bank statements as well. And then we're going to look at financial projections. And then this is another one of those areas where we will direct you to resources if you don't have that together quite yet. But it's a really important piece of the puzzle here. And the more that you can work with someone to help put those together, I think it's helpful to have someone to kind of bounce ideas off of and stress test a little bit your assumptions on your projections. And then the other things that you'll need is proof of insurance. You may not have it yet, right? Because you're not operating, but at least getting a quote and sort of knowing where you're going to go to get your insurance. And then if you are doing any construction or tenant improvements, then having approved plans and permits you want to have those first because if not, it might delay the process. And so once we get the full application in, like I said, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks, and the relationship manager will work with you and ask for clarification on anything that's not clear, that type of thing. And then from there, the loan closes and funding happens almost immediately after that. So that's an overview of the process. Let's see what else. And now I'm going to dive into a little bit of the frequently asked questions. And these are actually frequently asked questions because this program has been sort of live for about a month now. And so these are the things that we come across often. Excuse me. Okay, so one common question is, I just moved into my space. Can I still get the loan or grant? And the answer is yes. So let's say you just moved in a month ago and you've just started operating. This is still part of your startup costs, right? Maybe you need additional working capital. That's totally fine. The other question that we get a lot is, I don't have a lease signed yet. Can I apply? This is a sort of. So if you have what's called an accepted letter of intent, we can start the application process. You will have to have the lease signed at the time of approval. And the reason is we can't approve the loan and fund the loan if you haven't secured a location. A location very often will dictate the total project cost and will dictate your marketing. And it really is kind of the crux of a brick and mortar retail, right? So you do have to have the location at a minimum secured and know where you're going to operate in order to start the process. Okay, the next question that we get all the time is there a minimum loan amount? Yes, the minimum loan amount is $25,000 for this program specifically. How long does the process take? Like we talked about, this is really going to actually depend on how loan ready you are and on your use of funds. So if you have all of your documents together and you submit everything, like I said, 3 to 4 weeks is the normal turnaround time. Things that cause delays are if we find tax liens and you have to get those resolved, if you have construction and that's delayed, that can often make the process last a little bit longer. But if for the most part, if you have everything together, the process can go fairly quick, 3 to 4 weeks. But there's always kind of unexpected delays, and we try to help you work through those as quickly as possible. Another question that we get a lot is, my business is 1 block outside of the map area. Is there anything that we can do about this? Can I still get it? And the answer is unfortunately no. Right? The geography is set, like Jossiel said. What if I only need 25,000? So I think this is a really common question is, I just want the grant. I don't want a loan. And that's totally fine. For this program specifically, it is for businesses that are looking to open that need additional capital, right? I encourage everyone to check out OEWD's website, and if they have a grant program available in the future, then it will be announced there, and you can sign up for email updates as well on their website.
Yeah, sorry, and I just joined by phone because I think people were saying that I sound a little fuzzy. So,
Yeah.
I think for us, the intention of this program again is to ensure that the business is well capitalized. A lot of the times, business owners think that they only need $25,000 grant, or they don't want to take on debt, and we understand that as there's a lot of hesitancy around it. But really, for the purposes of this program, is to ensure, especially with how rent is downtown, with just how how much capital you may need to make tenant improvements in general, that people are just well capitalized for this program. So that's why you're seeing this level of like the loan specifically, because again, the program is meant to spur economic, activity downtown. And the grant is kind of the added bonus of like you opening a business downtown. We know that it's difficult to start a new venture or to expand. And so that's why this is why you see that is this loan and grant program has come to fruition.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that was clearer, by the way.
And And sorry, there's just a question in the Q&A. Can you speak a little bit to whether or not there will be a required grant review, audit, or report?
Um, I think I understand what that means. Like after you get the grant, are you required to report anything? Um, so I guess I can only really speak for the loan program. So one of the things with most business loans, if you say you're going to use the loan to purchase equipment, we want to see receipts that you actually used the loan for the intended purpose. So we do ask for receipts within 90 days of loan closing to show that the loan was used for that purpose. I don't believe we are going to ask for receipts for the use of the grant funds.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And Dawn, if you have
the only thing just to know for the grant is that, as Karla said, because it is taxable income, you will receive a 1099, and you do have to report that in your taxes.
Thank you.
And then there's a question about, insurance. Is there a minimum amount required?
There is currently not a minimum amount required. What we want to see is that you have insurance that is appropriate for your type of business. So there isn't a minimum requirement, but we just would like to see that you have at a minimum. If you have employees, workers' comp, if you have most sort of physical businesses, some sort of liability insurance. Another common question that we get is, what if I have collections or past due accounts on my credit report? So what we ask is that you resolve any derogatory credit item prior to financing. So that's why I encourage everyone to pull your free annual credit report and take a look at what's on your credit report. And if there are any past due accounts, getting on a payment plan or working with that creditor to settle the account. What is a secondary source of income? So I talked about this a little bit, but just to be clear, really what we're looking for is, do you have enough income to cover your household expenses, right? So that's really the purpose of this. We're wanting to see that you have enough to cover your personal living expenses and your personal debts, because that's just, again, going to set the business up for success if you're not having to take a large draw from the business or a large salary, particularly in the beginning. That's helpful. And then what if I need help writing a business plan? We have lots of resources, and this kind of dives into our next webinar that we have planned, which will be a little bit further up on the slides. SBDC is a fantastic resource, Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center. We're putting together a list of resources that could help support you in writing a business plan, putting together financial projections, really so that you're set up for success. I think the thing I want to highlight about this particularly is capital is just one piece of business success, right? It's an important one, but also knowing that you have a really clear plan for how you're going to open the business, how you're going to market, how you're going to price your products. All of that is important, and having a support system so that you know where to go if you need to course correct is also really important. So like I said, capital is one piece of the puzzle, but there is a larger ecosystem of small business success. And we want to make sure that you know about all of it and are connected to all of it so you can really take advantage of it and be set up for success.
Karla, another question was, I just signed a lease for 3 years plus 5 years option to renew. Will the bank consider that 3 years, or
Yep.
how will that go?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a wonderful example. Thank you. So yeah, so if you have a 3-year term with an option to renew, that's fantastic. That covers the 5 years that we would need, because you have in your lease, it's written that you have the ability to renew it.
Great. And then another question, I'm also applying for SBA conventional loan. Will getting approved for this loan weaken my ability to get other financing through the SBA or conventionally?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It may impact it in the sense that, lenders are looking at your overall ability to repay debt, right? So if you're applying for a loan, let's say you're applying for another SBA loan, yeah, they're going to have to take this loan into consideration. The other thing that lenders look at oftentimes is the number of inquiries that you have. So what that means is every time you apply for financing and they pull your credit, you get what's called a hard inquiry on your credit. And it temporarily does impact your credit in a negative way, but it does bounce back after a period of time. So a lender might ask, are you applying for other debt? And it really is because they're trying to assess your ability to repay all debts.
And then on that topic, will past credit struggles such as student loans affect the current loan process?
Generally, we're looking at trends, right? If you're working to improve your credit, that's a good thing. And we can look past some of those things. So if you had, particularly during the pandemic, it was very common for business owners to have some derogatory items on their credit, right? So as long as you're working to actively improve that situation, we can work with you.
And then there are a couple questions about negotiating leases downtown and what resources there are for that.
Yeah, I can definitely take
Yeah.
that question. So with negotiating leases, we work very closely with the Office of Small Business, which is a division of our department, and we have actually two commercial leasing specialists that can help businesses with negotiating the lease. We also work very closely with the SF Bar Association and Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights if there's any sort of issues that you may have with any prospective landlord. And for us also as well with the Office of Small Business, they do have permit specialists. So one of the things that a lot of businesses sometimes see, at least in my time here at OEWB, is that they see the perfect location, but it's not zoned appropriately, or they don't have the proper permits. And so in working with the Office of Small Business, you'll be able to ensure that the retail location is appropriately zoned for your kind of business, and that also the permits that you would need in order to operate the business, they can walk you through from A to Z in terms of what you need for that. So if there's any sort of questions on that, feel free to reach out. Like I said, reaching out to the Office of Small Business for any commercial leasing or permitting stuff, and then obviously for Karla and I, just in terms of like the grant and loan program.
I also see there's a question about fees, and so I'd love to talk about that. So yeah, there is a loan fee. So it's 1,000 or 2,000 depending on the loan amount. And there is also what's called our due diligence fees, and those are just the basic kind of searches that we have to do in our due diligence process. So things like $29.99 for a UCC search and $15 for a credit report, that type of thing. But all of our fees are closing fees, so you receive an itemized list of all fees prior to closing.
And then just another clarification question. Can existing businesses apply or just new businesses?
So existing businesses can apply if they are filling a ground floor vacancy in the map area. So location in another part of the city or outside of San Francisco, and you want to open a new location in the downtown area, but you're going to operate under the same business entity, then yes, you are eligible to apply.
There's another question around like people that may want to rent a space together. Can you talk a little bit more about partnerships, Karla, in terms of when someone that's in a partnership decides to apply for a loan, like what are some of the requirements there?
Yeah, so I guess just to clarify that, because I'm not sure I understand. So you're saying two businesses operating in the same location?
Well, yeah. So somebody asked, can we make a meeting of people that are interested to do business to see if they can rent the space together? So kind of like, let's say lowering the cost of the rent. So for like, what would you need to see in order for like that co-op model or partnership model from a loan perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would imagine that we actually have not come across that situation, so it's kind of interesting. I would probably want to see either all of the tenants on the lease or some sort of a sublease agreement, right? Where the landlord, there's sort of the things that I want to also be sure is that the landlord is okay with that accommodation, just because we don't want it to be a situation where the landlord finds out that there's multiple tenants and they don't want that. And then that's just kind of a liability for you guys and potentially potentially impacts the ability to repay the loan. So yeah, I think kind of open communication about that would be helpful, but I think that's an interesting thing that maybe we can put together in terms of facilitating that. That could be interesting.
Yeah, we just for the sake of the question, like we can't facilitate any sort of like partnerships amongst business owners. So if you do want to like reach out to any of the participants, like you would have to do so on your own accord. But another question that we also see is if they're outside of the boundary for downtown, can they apply for just the loan portion of it? And if not, are there other products potentially that they can access through Main Street Launch?
Yeah, that's a great question. So currently they cannot apply for the loan program. Um, Maybe in the future that'll change, but at the moment, no. But we do have other loan programs. Main Street Launch has other loan programs for the city of San Francisco. We have a micro loan program, so a loan 50,000 or below. That's at a fixed 7.75% interest rate. And then we have our larger SBA Community Advantage Loan Program. Those go up to 350,000. And those are actually available throughout the state. And then we also have other, there's other CDFI, small business lenders that also operate in San Francisco that we're happy to direct you to if for some reason we're not the right fit. Okay, someone asked a question. I apologize, my cough. Um, the collateral slash responsibility. So if they get a $50,000 loan for a $3 million business, you essentially prevent the business from obtaining other debt. Not necessarily. So it's going to come down to a variety of things, right? So we do file a blanket lien on all business assets, which is pretty standard for most small business loans. If you need additional financing in the future, there's a few things that can be done, right? If you need equipment financing, say, they often will just finance that piece of equipment and they don't actually need a first lien position. There have been instances where we've been able to grant what's called a lien subordination if someone has a legitimate reason for why they need additional debt. But either way, we're going to want to see, and just in the same way that the other lender is going to want to see that you're able to repay all of the debts. I also see the question that someone asked if this is part of Vacant to Vibrant or if this is separate. It is separate, but we partner with Vacant to Vibrant in the sense that we work with SF New Deal to refer back and forth. So it's not necessarily associated with Vacant to Vibrant or SF New Deal, but they are a partner of ours. And we're hoping that they can join in on our partner webinar to tell you a little bit about the things that they offer as well.
Yeah, and in the past, yeah, I was gonna say in the past we've seen vacant to vibrant participants that because that is again a very temporary program that have tried to negotiate their leases and get their more permanent or move to another space after that. So definitely to Karla's point, we do work closely with them, and obviously we want to ensure that we're supporting businesses throughout that want to have a more permanent location in the downtown area. One thing that I did see, another question, someone did ask Karla to repeat your the Main Street Launches products and offerings, but are you allowing formula retail for this loan program, Karla? And okay, yeah, so
no, thank you. That shop probably should have been in the eligibility, so I apologize for that oversight. But yeah, this loan is not intended for businesses that are franchises or sort of chain businesses. It really is for individually owned small businesses.
And then this is another question from Carlo, who can confirm that the space qualifies for the loan. So the loan obviously is going to take the qualifying for the loan. It exists outside of the map as well. So obviously looking at the map, there is, if you go to Main Street Launch's website, and once we send out the slide decks, you'll be able to confirm that the location is within the green zone. But really, qualifying for the loan depends on your cash flow, depends on a lot of other factors that Karla mentioned. And so it's not just the map being the one kind of qualifier. There's a lot of other things as an entrepreneur that you have to ensure that you can qualify. So just the green zone is just kind of step one at that point.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to kind of go through this just so that we start to wrap up. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email us at sanfrancisco@mainstreetlaunch.org. And if you're interested, and we will share this link as well, to start an application, you can visit our website and fill out a form, and our relationship managers will be in touch with you to discuss eligibility and the process and all that jazz. And then we hope that you can join us for an upcoming webinar that we're having. Again, like I said, capital is just one piece of the puzzle in terms of small business success. And we really want to make sure that you know what other resources are available to support your business and getting started and growing in downtown San Francisco. So we'll share the link to that sign up when we share kind of the details of this webinar after the fact. So you can sign up for that. And in the meantime, you can always check out on our website. We have a downtown San Francisco page with some resources at the bottom. And so you can start by reaching out to some of those resources as well.
I do see another question about, can a secondary source of income be linked to general business, i.e. artistic business? Is that okay, Karla?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I didn't
Oh,
understand.
sorry. Sorry. One of the questions says, can a secondary of income be linked to the general business, i.e. if they have an artistic business?
Yeah. So if you have another business that has been generating income for you for years, that's great.
And then another participant asks, if I haven't worked for years but saving for up to 6 months to cover household and personal expenditures, would I qualify for the loan?
Yeah, generally we want to see closer to 12 months of cash reserves. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much covered it.
Yeah, and I want to just say to everybody that obviously we're here to help. There's a lot of resources in terms of like the business operations for us. We want to ensure that sound businesses are moving into these spaces. We never want to put you in a position to take out a loan that you are well capitalized, that you have the proper permits and licenses, and that you actually, want to do business and can do business and sustain the loan. Because it's really the main thing. Can you repay the loan over the timeline of the loan terms? And yes, just to answer the question from Lance, it does need to be ground floor. The intention of this program is to bring foot traffic into downtown. We want to ensure that we're providing resources for businesses that want to open downtown, because that's the spirit of this, of like ensuring that we can create a more vibrant downtown.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you all for joining. This is really exciting, and we're excited to support businesses in downtown. And like I said, capital is just one piece of this. It's a really important piece of it, but we really want to make sure that businesses are supported and really have a solid plan for how to succeed in, still starting a venture or growing in the downtown San Francisco area. So really, I encourage you to join the next webinar around resources, and we look forward to having conversations with you about your business
and
plans.
I see that a lot of the technical assistance providers like Small Business Development Center and Renaissance are here, and so they're learning as well about this program. And so also feel free to reach out to them. Again, they're there as a resource. They're there to help you, and they can help you navigate not only this resource, but ensure that you're taking the appropriate measures, to open up this business. And again, just to let everybody know why you may not be eligible for the grant. If you received the storefront opportunity grant in the past, so if you had opened up a business and you've already received the storefront opportunity grant program in the past, you will not be eligible for the grant. I just want to make sure that that's pretty much clear, since I know we've got a lot of questions around that. And we'll double check that. So it's not, we have a list. We'll double check that. So if you have any sort of like hesitation, or if you have, if you want to make sure that you didn't receive it, we have that list as well.
All right. Thank you all for joining.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope to be in touch with you all soon.
Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.